and 90% digital, and we've got people looking at all sorts of payment systems. So part of these have become about because of COVID, as we haven't been able to exchange cash and not physically go into spaces. And so this was a really big circuit breaker for business, and not just here in Aotearoa, but right across the entire world. So let's just have a quick look at some of the facts of the last 12 to 18 months. So this is a study by MasterCard. So the number of small and medium businesses have gone online has tripled. So just over the last 18 months, that is actually, so we've got more small and medium businesses are creating twice the rate of digitization of large businesses. So small businesses have gone, this is the way forward. We need a website. We need to be able to trade and do commerce online. We need to be able to still connect in with our accounting systems and our payroll systems. And it might be things like you might be thinking about how you do timetabling, productivity tools. If you're fully remote, you'll be thinking about how do you collaborate with your teams, particularly if you've got 2 or 3 people across different locations. So what does this actually look like? So again, from MasterCard, so a huge jump up in terms of the number of businesses going online for the first time. So this is what businesses who perhaps have been in a fairly traditional analog way of operating and across the world. So this is MasterCard globally, and you'll see that really significant peak, and it's still going at this stage. If we look at Salesforce, and not all of you will be familiar with Salesforce, but it's one of the largest software providers in the world for large businesses primarily, but they also do some really great insights and studies around small businesses. And so if you look across the last year, you'll see 72% of small and medium businesses have increased their presence. And so only 20% have not increased at all. And so we certainly, if you're in that group who hasn't done any increase of your digital footprint or your digital services, you are part of that minority. So we're really here as Digital Boost trying to say, how can we help you to digitize so that you actually can really work through this period now and into the future with some really strong skills and tools that are digital, and it gives you more time and actually more customers. The same study, e-commerce has also had a significant jump. So 63% of all of the small and medium businesses, as a global study, now have e-commerce. And so you can have e-commerce not just for products, you can also do that with services. And so some people provide a service. It could be, a monthly service. It could be a company that perhaps washes houses and it just put onto a standard contract, and they pay for it online, and every 3 months the house wash company comes around and washes the house or weeds the garden. Or it could be someone who's actually just selling products on a one-time situation where people come in, put it into the shopping cart and do that transaction. The other thing that's really important to know, not only has the number of small businesses gone online increased dramatically at 75%, the number of people who've jumped onto the internet for the first time has rapidly grown, another 900,000 people per day. So actually the number of people around the world who are now connected, particularly those on their smartphones where most transactions now happen or now occur. So this growth has been really significant. So once upon a time, we talked about the idea of the digital world and the non-digital analog. That's now gone, and even the developing nations are extremely digital. And actually, in many cases, the digital nations that are most advanced are those where actually it's been very low levels of development, but the population is so young that they have just rapidly embraced digital. And then on top of that, since April last year, another 500 million people of just the 8 billion people on the planet, so 520 million of them have joined some form of social media. So that is another 1.4 million new people a day. So even more than joining the internet. And so social media is pretty predominantly across the Western ones we know, the likes of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok and some of the ones we know, but there's also some geographically specific social media, particularly in China and other parts of the world where they might have some social media which have got great dominance. So this is just what does Aotearoa New Zealand's small and medium business economy look like? So 97% of the businesses in this country have less than 20 employees. So you're all in very good company. And so you may be small in terms of the number of people, and you may be a sole trader, but you actually bring 42% of the economic value for the country. And that's a critical piece of information, you're mighty in force. And 28% of employees are employed by small businesses. So if you're sitting around a barbecue over the summer and you looked across the group of people around you, the chances are 28% of them are actually employed by a small business. And 71% of the businesses have no employees. So these are people who might contract specialist services, but generally a sole trader, and then they might have just bring in people as they need to in that specialist skill set. And then the last one here, the 40% of all jobs in this country are in small businesses. So very impactful sector, and we really want to make sure is the goal we have for this country is to become the most digitally advanced economy in the world, and actually as a trading nation, which we've always been very good at. We just need to make sure we have those channels to market through digital platforms. So what are we spending here? So this is a great report that's just been put out by New Zealand Post, so thanks to them. And if you look at that, actually we're not spending all our money offshore. 71% of the expenditure of e-commerce online right now is spent within New Zealand businesses. And so this is, again, really important to know that actually when we're spending money online, the chances are 3/4 of the people spending money are actually spending it locally. And so make sure, again, that you've got your presence there. Some other great information from New Zealand Post over the last quarter. So 11% of all retail sales are now online. It's a big piece of exchange that's going on. Taranaki is a big growth area at 46%. We're seeing 10% of the shoppers make up 42% of the online spend. Now, what that means is if you have a loyal customer online, the chances are they're going to keep coming back because that's where they prefer to shop. And so people who spend a lot of time shopping online, it is probably, if not the only place they shop, it's their preferred place to be spending their money. If you look down here, the 2.13 million Kiwis over 16. So 2.13 million of our 5 million are actually shopping online. So about half. Now, if you take away potentially those who are too young to have a credit card or those who choose not to, and at the upper end of the scale where we don't have so much spending later years of our lives, it's a big chunk of the consumer market who are there online. So I'll just keep going through, but some great lifts there. And the 49% fastest growth is in homewares, electronics and appliances. What we do know is with COVID, people got very obsessed with their homes and actually their environment. So people started really thinking about, if you're going to be in lockdown, let's make sure it's a beautiful place to be spending time. And then if you just cross the different categories between last year and this year, so Q3 in 2020 and now Q3 in 21, the big winner is clothing and footwear. So even though we can't see our feet when we're on these screens, we're still spending money on shoes. And then we look at the department and variety type stores at 27%. So that general type of consumer products in that category. None of these are particularly low, but it's surprising here in terms of that 6% compared to last year with homeware and appliances, because that was a very big area last year. And so the lift between year to year is not so significant, but it has seen a really big lift over the 2-year period. And if you look here in terms of how much are we spending, the grey line is this year. And you'll see last year that big peak in April, May, when people started really spending online, which was the first lockdown in the country last year. But you can see right now we are heading towards that peak. And I'm pretty sure when New Zealand Post puts out their new report later this year or early next year, we'll see that grey line go well above that 200 million mark. And it will be a steady growth from here on. Because what we do know, as soon as you digitize your systems and people experience it and it's really effective, then actually what is really empowering is people stay digital. And so it's a really important part of going online. So if we look at Digital Boost, and hopefully most of you are very familiar with what we have on offer on Digital Boost, is a free learning platform with plenty of other perks, which we'll talk about later. If we look, what has the impact been? So over the last few months, for those of you who are using it extensively and really benefiting from the learnings, what we know now is that, first of all, I mentioned before, New Zealand, we're trying to make sure we are the most digitally engaged small business sector in the world. And we know that 43% of you want to become more digital. But just when we started, there were only 42% of you who had a website. And so that was really the first insight. Because if you are in small and medium business and you don't have an online presence, that was really going to limit your access to markets and to channels, but also the visibility of your business to anybody who was trying to find a product or service that you might be able to offer. So what has happened since that time? Well, we've seen some really significant shifts. And so we've now increased up to 70%, so a 21% increase of businesses using Digital Boost now have a website. And also on social media, we've seen a really big shift of people thinking about that. So another 9% of people investing time in the likes of Facebook and Instagram, and a higher number of people recognizing their business model needs to change. The other one on the right-hand side, which is a really fantastic result, is 21%. Additional 21% of businesses now are taking e-commerce payments. And so that means those shopping carts are getting busy, particularly now as we head towards Christmas, when people are really thinking about what to buy over Christmas. And for those who in Tamaki Makaurau here in Auckland, when shopping is still only just a little bit of an option, I know there's a lot of online transactions going right now as people think about their Christmas shopping. What we'd also love is that 80% of people would recommend Digital Boost to others, and 70% already have. So those reference to others and telling others about Digital Boost is super important. It's been a significant undertaking with MB's support from the Ministry of Business Innovation and Employment, and we really want to make sure this is a world-class platform that really helps New Zealand businesses to grow. So one of the things, if you're looking offshore and starting to think about what else is going on, by the end of next year, the expectation is that 20% of all purchasing that people do, whether it's booking flights, we wish, or actually it's thinking about going to the movies, or it's buying retail products, or perhaps looking at services, that actually 20% of them will be actually on one of the major giant platforms, the likes of Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and then the Chinese equivalents, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. And so these are, for example, you can now sell on Amazon in Australia. It's a platform there for New Zealand businesses. It's people also using things like Alibaba, but also Google. Now, we're starting to see things like Facebook increasingly used for e-commerce, and they're not the only one, and we'll just jump and talk about that briefly in a moment. The other really big shift right now is just the sheer number of influencers. Now, if you have a youth target market, anybody really under the age of 30 particularly, they probably are really sort of focused on certain key influencers around the world. And this person here is the Lipstick King. Now, he, on the pre-Singles Day, which was just a couple of days ago, he sold, for example, $1.7 billion worth of goods in just a few hours. And so 12-hour period of time. So he would promote a product from a third party. He would talk about the kind of the attributes of the product, and at the same time, the commerce transactions were happening. Now, the day before Singles Day, just a few days ago, a New Zealand company, Grin Toothpaste, used the same Lipstick King and went out, and in 115 seconds, he sold, on behalf of Grin Toothpaste, 115,000 tubes of New Zealand-made Grin toothpaste. So you really can start to see, by paying these influencers, the reach into these markets is just enormous. And so this is something, if you have got highly aspirational, really strong branded, visually rich products, you really start thinking about some of these markets offshore if you're interested in the export market. So what does this growth look like? Well, this is a US graph, but actually you could pretty much take the same view over the last 12 months across almost any market in the world. And so we're starting to see this big, significant, long-lasting shift in the North Star. Who are you selling to? Well, the chances are, if you're not selling to Generation Z yet, you will be soon. There is 2.8 billion people aged between 7 and 24, the most populous grouping in the world. And they are one of the most, in terms of a customer group, they are spending more than you would imagine. They are very influenced by trends. They're very influenced by what they believe in. And they are quite a complex market because they spend their entire time online. And if you have these young people in your family, you'll know exactly what we mean. And so the only way to reach this generation is through online channels. They're certainly not watching television or reading a newspaper or even a magazine. And so it's really important, if you're in looking at that group. Now, the group immediately after this group of Generation Z are the millennials. Now, millennials are actually very dominant in the workplace, and a lot of you will be millennials up to the age of 40. And so there has been a shift in the ways that people think about consuming media, but also about how you buy products and services. So let's take a little look. Here's one example, e-commerce on Instagram. And this idea that you don't even need to have your own website. You could actually just set up your own shop and sell entirely through Instagram, as you can see here with the plant shop. So there's options that don't necessarily have your own website. Now, this is particularly important if you're not sure about a website or you don't want to put the investment in. The downside is you don't get the data that you get from having your own website, and you can't build a customer database in the same way. But it's a great way to start at the initial stages. Another one here is an example of how influencers actually work. So let me just play a little quick video here of Instagram influencers, or in this case, Pop Shop Live influencers selling product.
This is like perfect for summer.
This is like one of our best sellers.
Color coordinate with your outfit.
Beautiful bowl.
And it smells so good.
Oh, sold out. Let's sell one. This is it.
Really does look like the skin of a chameleon.
He's a lazy egg.
Now, I'm not sure where that all fits in with the sort of anti-consumption, consumer, minimalist market that's also happened with youth. Obviously, lots of products there. But again, it gives you an insight to what that looks like. And likewise here, here's an example where Facebook, you've got a woman here who is promoting Bobbi Brown makeup. And so she just comes in and does a live stream, a little bit like we're doing right now, but actually does that where she can show what she's doing online.
I'm so excited.
Now, one of the greatest things about video, it is so much higher in terms of the rate of which people buy. So if you're selling on Facebook, if you put your products online in video and not still images, you'll see a significant lift in the number of products that you sell. People love seeing video, and they particularly love it when you can showcase the product. And when we talk about video, if you are in the beauty and style industry in any way, anything influential, YouTube is very dominant in this category. It's where a lot of young people spend their time looking for trends, particularly around beauty and style, a little bit less in the more traditional sectors. So what are we seeing in terms of numbers? So over the last year, we've seen an increase online sales to the value of $7.8 trillion. It's way too many zeros for me to write down. It's a massive increase. And so the 25% increase across the world. Consumers are buying more and more on their mobile devices. In different markets, we see different percentages, but generally in New Zealand, we assume about 80% of the transactions will happen on a mobile phone, not sitting at a laptop or sitting in an iPad. And so we to think about, what does our content and our website look like on a mobile phone? Does it have all the functionality? Can you still buy and put things in the shopping cart really easily? Some of the other reasons that people are looking more at this lockdown meant that people couldn't have drop-offs very easily, so they had things delivered to their house. And then the rise of the last mile delivery. And this is an area where a lot more people are really focusing on very quick delivery for close customers. So if you have a business and you can serve the last mile, or perhaps the last 10 miles or 10 kilometers in this country, that you could get products out very quickly, you'll get a lot of repeat visit. So I just have here just one business doing this type of last mile delivery called Sherpa, which is in Australia and New Zealand. And it's just this idea that you can have things put out to your customers super fast and sometimes within 1 hour. The New Zealand Infrastructure Commission at the moment has a draft strategy report out, and I think it's really important to understand what they are thinking in terms of infrastructure for New Zealand. It's not just about roads and water systems and thinking about those big things we rely on for transportation, but actually if you see the bottom paragraph here, that digital and mobile connectivity are becoming essential. And moving data and information will become as important to the regions as moving energy or water. And so this idea that we need to think about digital and connectivity as one of the key attributes of a good life, that needing to be connected to all the services that have moved into digital, including services such as banks and insurance companies and travel agents and media and everything else that's moved that way. So if we look at the OECD, the digital transformation report that came out recently, so 70% of small and medium businesses or enterprises have intensified their use of digital technologies. So again, we're hearing the same trends in different reports from around the world. And actually, some of the key things here, what digital technologies allow businesses to do is actually to have huge benefits for very little kind of effort and money. So there's not like the days where you had to have a server set up and huge amounts of cost with technology. Now you can get most software on a monthly fee, a small monthly fee, or even sometimes free, but you certainly don't need to have the big infrastructure, the hundreds of thousands of dollars just 10 years ago that we were spending to keep everything we had safe. So across the last year, the least digitized sectors are administration support services. So which you'd think would be one of the first, but actually still a lot of people are doing a lot of that support with traditional ways. And it's something we could so easily digitize. And then accommodation and food services, still a lot of people haven't made that jump. So if you run a motel, or you've got a boutique, or you've got a hostel, this is the time when the borders are closed to really focus on how you might get that accommodation online. But on the other hand, we're seeing some really good lifts across transportation and storage industries, wholesale providers who really need to showcase their products to buyers, and then retail, no surprise there. This is Australian data, but I think a lot of this is comparable to what we see here. And so 81% in the last year found that their investment in technology or digital was already profitable. So the return on investment is very quick. So if you're spending $5,000, you're going to get that return back incredibly quickly. In the same way, if you spent $20,000, you would get that back as well. The growth is directly attributed to the investment. So some of the other things here that actually, the bottom one here is just 60% of businesses received more than 10% of their revenue from online sales. So it may seem like a small amount, but if you're doing a turnover in your business and 10% from a channel you didn't have before, very quickly that can become quite a significant new channel for revenue. When we look across at this piece of work that's been done across Asia Pacific, and then lots of focus on New Zealand here, one of the things where we don't perform particularly well is we have very low anticipated numbers who are spending money on digitization. So we're not doing some of the key things that Australia and parts of Southeast Asia are doing. So innovation, innovating and creating new products, e-commerce, which we've talked about a lot, the use of social media, and then exporting. Now, we are really good at all these things. We just need to be able to help you to find ways to do this without too much intimidation factor around this idea of digitizing, because actually a lot of it is relatively straightforward. Some of the other things from this report, in New Zealand, you'll see the column there of in 2020, and the column on the right is by comparison to the rest of the market across Australasia and into Asia. So 59% of New Zealand businesses did not earn any revenue from online sales versus just 22% of the rest of the group who did not receive revenue from online sales. The same thing with social media. So, nearly 40% of New Zealand businesses are not using social media for business. And so whereas a much smaller amount of the 18% in other markets. Now, you will be able to get a copy of the slide deck, so don't frantically write things down. We'll be sending this out to you. If you're signed up here today, you'll be able to get a copy of this. And so a lot of these key metrics, you'll see that we are on the wrong side of the positive outcomes. And so we really need to be thinking about why is it in this country we're not taking advantage of the opportunity. Some of the other things we see here, we're not seeing employee numbers grow at the same rate. We're also not seeing improved customer satisfaction. And actually some of these other things, required funds from external source. So we are not good at getting external funds to help our businesses. And so you'll see on the right-hand side, we'll seek external funds. Just 9% of New Zealand small businesses are seeking external funds versus the average of 27%. And actually what's really interesting with that is it means we're not innovating. So we're not introducing new products and services. If you're not investing, you're not able then to spend the money and saying, what else could we be selling, or what other products and services could we develop? So that 8.7% is a very small number of businesses who are innovating compared to the average of 23%. And then just very quickly, just going through this, that New Zealand businesses that do access finance, for example, from the bank, far more of them do that just for survival. So 11.8% sourced finance for business growth in New Zealand versus nearly 50% of people who went to the bank or to a third-party investor for its survival. Now, I appreciate it's been a really tough time, but in the survey, it's across the whole region who have had the same issues we've all had with COVID. So just really as a bit of a nod in the right direction to say investment can be very beneficial to grow your business and to actually build that resilience you need. And I know at a time when business is really tough, and I totally appreciate that, just a small amount of investment can make a huge difference as we go through these times. And then just to sort of get winding up towards the end of this part of the presentation, but the number of new small and medium businesses that opened last year versus the previous year, you'll see here there's been a really quite a significant increase across many countries. So the small and medium businesses are growing and popping up and opening at a faster rate than large businesses. And so with a few exceptions at the bottom of that graph, we're starting to see some real buoyancy and people choosing to leave potentially normal sort of jobs, salary jobs, and starting their own gig or maybe their side hustle. The challenges that you would have experienced over the years are very similar wherever you go in the world. A lot of it's around acquiring and keeping new customers and increasing revenue. So these are the key benefits of digital. Lots of new channels to market. You can measure them. You have the data to know what's working. You can see the benefits straight away from the sales that you're making. And actually, why do people move online? So again, this is great Salesforce research, mostly to serve customers. The customers are saying, we want you to be online. The same way we want to watch Netflix and be flexible when we watch it. We're not like scheduled television when we had to be in a certain place on a certain day. The flexibility of online means people can shop at any time of the day. You don't need to be around. Actually, you can walk in the morning into your business or perhaps open the garage door where you run the business from, and actually the sales continue. And so serving customers is the big one. And then what are you thinking about with your customer interactions since the pandemic began? Actually, if you look at here, the businesses that are growing are the top bar, the darker green, not the teal. The darker green are the people who are more conscious of what they tell their customers. And so the 47% in the teal color is those who are businesses that are on the decline. And so what we're seeing is the people who are thinking and going, we're going to work harder to engage our customers are getting the benefit. What are people thinking about contactless payments and services whenever after the pandemic is? You'll see right across the board that most people are not going back to a completely a single form of delivery or contact. So they're thinking about this contactless services supported by online. So right across, regardless of what sector you're in, the chances are you probably want to be thinking about keeping things contactless for quite some time, if not permanently, which may end up being closing a physical shop or physical building and actually just thinking about this contactless offer. So just in terms of time, because I'm sending this out to you, I won't go through all these slides, but the importance of things like CRM systems, which is your customer relationship management system, which is basically a very fancy word for a database. How many people are using them? Again, you'll see in the dark green, the businesses that are growing, 67% of these businesses who are small are using customer relationship databases and they're actually collecting information about their customers. The ones that are stagnant or declining are not as much. And so we're starting to see the differences here. So I'm just going to do a very quick flick through Digital Boost in case you don't know it very well. I know some of you are not Digital Boost users and you're coming in from another channel. Just to let you know what you can find at Digital Boost. There's a number of categories that you can cover off, from digital starter if you're really at the beginning, right through to business insights, tools, marketing. This is a good example where you've got the wonderful Wendy Petrie talking about digital starters, things that, how do I do these things? Very simple things like, what if I've been scammed, or how do I stop spam, or things that perhaps you're just not sure about. But if you're beyond this stage and you want to jump into more business type areas, there are videos for almost everything. 500 videos available on the site, all entirely free in different areas, including things like website basics and search engine and e-commerce. Each of the videos gives you indication of, you can watch it, you can download the summary, you can even print out the PDF, you can view it in multiple different captions with languages. So we have captions in Hindi, in Tongan, in Samoan, in Chinese. So some great options there for different languages. We have events that are running every single day with the fabulous Anna-Marie who's hosting this event. And these are on a range of different topics. And you'll see for this week, we've got, for example, you've got Shopify talking about what they do, people talking about events, people talking about visibility and productivity, there's all sorts, and these you can join any day by just going to the site and clicking the little plus button, and it will pop it into your diary and give you a reminder. And then we've got sectors. So the 10 sectors we focus on, from starting from food and beverage all the way through tourism. And there's some wonderful real life stories of everyday Kiwis out there doing their job, creating a small business, creating worth in all sorts of different areas. So if you haven't checked these out, these are really aspirational ways for you to get excited about what other businesses are doing. We also have an app. So Digital Boost Live, you can download this from your preferred app store, whether it's Android or Apple. And you can get all of the benefits of Digital Boost as well as podcasts. So if you want to go out walking and listen to what others are doing. There are all sorts of offers. So if you go to the offers page, you'll find offers for almost everything you need. And so these fabulous New Zealand companies supporting other New Zealand companies. So take a look on the website to some of the offers, and there's new offers coming in every single week. And we also feature those on our weekly comms. And then lastly, but very importantly, we also have a bilingual, the Te Reo Maori version of the site. So all of the content has been filmed and created in Te Reo Maori and with subtitles. And so this, if you are learning or you're fluent in Te Reo, this is a fabulous way for you to actually explore the language, but also the context of Te Reo and the Maori economy. So I'm going to just drop out of my sharing right now. And I apologize, that was very fast. Trying to get through a lot of information in a few minutes is always tricky, but hopefully just to get some ideas of just that growth and just understanding how much opportunity is out there right now for you as a small business is really, really exciting.
Oh, we're getting some positive feedback in the chat with just like how informative the session is. And there's been some, questions about wanting to get tips and tricks. And I'm so glad that you brought up the fact that there's sessions Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. because that's where you're going to get that info. Of course, you can find other content on the site, and that's all there for you to view in bite-sized pieces at your convenience. But Monday through Friday at 10 a.m., we have all of those special sessions that are about an hour where you can learn lots of different skills. So if you're beyond just thinking about digitizing and you're trying to go a little bit deeper, I'd recommend tuning into those. You can tune into them either by registering on the site, or you can, if you prefer using YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, they do go live daily. So that's another option for you. Just like today, I am checking the chat features and comment sections on the platform. And we've got folks tuning in on Facebook that are, dropping in comments and questions. And we've got lots of questions, Frances. So I don't know if you want to address some of them.
Let's have some questions. So while you're choosing one, and just let you know, we also have our support team. So on the end of a phone or email, if you've got questions and you need some help with digitization, reach out to the team. All the information is on the website, but we'd love to see you there as well.
Now I am scrolling up because in the chat, it just feeds. So if you've got a specific question and for some reason I don't get to it, pop it in the Q&A section if you're on Zoom with us, because it's really easy for me to see because we've just had folks just communicating back and forth with each other, which is wonderful. A little bit of community feel in the chat function. So there is a gentleman named Melvin who's tuned in. He's nearly 70 and wants to start an online hands-on teaching activity. And he said that lockdowns are perfect opportunity worldwide. And what he's looking for is a New Zealand website platform. So that's, I don't know if you want to answer those kind of questions here, but I think that, we can address that a little bit.
Yeah, look, there are a number of platforms that you can use which are just off the shelf when you pay a monthly fee. Sometimes it's tied to the number of students you're teaching. Sometimes you just pay a standard monthly amount. I think probably in this case, it's better for us to come back to you with a range of options, because there's probably at least 20 that I know of that are used across for different types of learning. And so some of them, is it just you want to be able to share visual information or reports, or do you actually want to be able to interact like this? So if you could just pop your details into the chat, Melvin, and we will reach out to you. And in fact, if any of these questions that we can't answer in the session, if you do put your emails in, then we can get our support crew to come back to you with some of the answers.
That's right. And the great thing about, looking at websites and the different features that they offer, when we get into the nitty gritty of what you're trying to do, we can find something that'll really work for you. Because if you're trying to have a learning platform, then you're going to need a different kind of thing than, they just need to contact you there. So, yeah.
Okay, so there was Melvin, actually, You can just use Zoom. I mean, there is actually Zoom for this type of situation. It's one of the ones that most people are familiar with. You don't need a really fancy kind of platform, but you do need a website to start off with, because they'll need to know that they trust you. They want to understand. The students want to know who you are, what's your background, credentials, and then actually things like little videos from you, just saying who you are and what you do and what you're passionate about. People need to be able to understand who you are if you're going to spend time talking to their kids or whatever age they are, and making sure that they trust that this is going to be a good learning experience.
Yeah, and it's great to put yourself out there. Some folks get a little bit shy about getting on camera, but I think Frances would agree. Well, I know she agrees. You just got to put yourself out there and don't be afraid to show your face. That's how we build trust. And, you've got a gift to give out to the world. And that's a good way to let people know who you are so they can resonate with you and you can make a connection through videos. There's another comment / question here. It says, it's from Candace, and it says, great to be here. Is there a digital diagnostic tool or coach to help small businesses assess the most effective solutions for their business? There's a raft of brilliant software tools I'm using and experimenting with, including MailChimp, Xero, and Canva. What would be useful to hone in on what's best for me and my business now and in the future? Thanks. Great question.
Wonderful question. And look, I think if you have a website, your Google Analytics are going to give you a huge amount of insights. That will tell you, who's coming to your site, where are they coming from. You can track the amount of traffic. You can see some really good insights, including Google My Business. If you haven't set up your Google My Business page, that gives you even further information. So you can go in, you can add images, almost like a little mini website on Google My Business, and that will give you even further insights there. But in terms of navigating around diagnostic tools, there are a number of providers, but I do know that over time there's going to be some new additions to Digital Boost that will help you do that. So stay tuned over the next few months, because we're going to have some really exciting new features that will come in amongst others around diagnostics, which will tell you more information about what potentially is not working so well on your site. There's some really core hygiene things you need to be thinking about your site. Is it secure? Number one. If people go in and don't see that you have a secure site, they're not going to buy from you. And potentially, they're not going to trust anything you say on your site. Things like, do you have terms and conditions? Do you have a physical address so people know if they buy something, there's a return address if something goes wrong? Can they see you? As there pictures of the owners and the people who work in the business? Like, to Anna Maori's point, they need to trust that there's someone at the other end. So if you just have a contact and it just says, support at or, help at, and it's no names on the site of anybody who owns that business, people are not going to trust you. So there are things that you should just be aware of that are just basic hygiene things on a website, including making sure you don't have broken links. And then thinking about things like if you've got links off to your social media pages, and perhaps you've got Facebook and Instagram, make sure that they're active. Because if they're not active, don't put links there. Because if someone goes there and finds that you haven't posted for 2 years, they're not going to think about you being a really contemporary business, or that you're going to look after them if you don't look after social media. So I would say if they're not active on those platforms, don't feature them on your website. Too often I'll go through and I'll find out the website, for example, it might be a Twitter site. Twitter's set up, but they haven't got a single follower. And so then you say, well, why is there a link on the site to that particular social media? So just be thinking about what that says to someone who doesn't get the chance to talk to you and talk about how wonderful your business is.
And I guess, a lot of these build your own website kind of sites, these, for instance, like Shopify or Squarespace, you guys might be familiar with, they sometimes automatically tick those options for your social media. So if you're not active on them, just make sure when you're building your site that if you don't use them, just untick those options, because a lot of times they're automatically selected and maybe you didn't realize that that's happening. There is a question here that I thought we should address right away. And it says, is there a payment subscription to attend Digital Boost?
It's entirely free. This is the wonderful thing about what we Digital Boost. It is available to everyone at no cost. So you don't need a payment system. You just need to sign up. And then every week we'll send you an email and tell you what's going on the platform, what's new, what offers there are, great events, things like this. At the moment, for example, on a Thursday afternoon, we are doing a coffee session, a Q&A session with the team. We normally have at least 12 or maybe even more, 12 or 14 of the team join that session. We have a 1-minute dance party first. Got to warn you, you have to stand up and dance, put the camera off if you need to, but actually just a way of getting that community and a fantastic new Facebook community. So you can share all your exciting ideas with others who are also in the same situation in terms of they're in Aotearoa, they're a small or medium business, and they're trying to digitize.
Yeah, I would encourage, if you've got a lot of questions, maybe you want to really speak to the team about, join us this Thursday at 3:30 to 4:30, because we really do delve in, and we're going to the topic we're going to cover this Thursday. Sometimes we just touch on a little thing in the beginning and then we open it up the forum. We're going to be talking about SEMrush and SEO and just having a look at some different sites. It'll be really simple. We'll walk through it. So if you're an advanced kind of person, maybe you're not going to get as much value out of that, but you are going to get value out of the fact that you get to talk to our experts that'll be hands-on right there, dancing alongside of you, dancing alongside you for that session. Please join us. We'd love to have you come along. There's more questions here. It says, is there any fund and resources available to help with online advertising tools, for instance, Facebook or Google?
So Google offer, when you sign up to Google My Business, as soon as you spend $70, they will give you another $100 worth of Google money, I guess, to spend on using Google and AdWords. But actually, I think what you should be doing is looking at what works, because actually social media marketing is not that expensive. You can do a lot of it organically, which means you don't have to pay for it at all. You just need to be active. So it means going in every day. For example, if you're adding some posts on Facebook, perhaps you do a little video. You'll get used to it eventually. Do a video and talk about the great product that you want to sell. And then actually make sure you share it across other platforms like Instagram. So at the early stage, you can actually start putting things across multiple platforms just by actually just automating that process. So you don't have to do one by one by one. And so we can also help you how to do that. So again, just remember, we have a support team if you're not sure what that process is, or if you go into digitalboost.business.govt.nz and just do in the search bar, if you're looking how to do things like Google AdWords, just put that in the search and it will take you to the videos that will tell you how to do that. So another really simple way of doing it.
Cool. I feel like we're going to have a lot left over. So yeah, I am loving the engagement on this session. Thank you guys so much for dropping your questions in everywhere across platforms. So if I look like I'm looking off, it's actually, I'm just looking at you. So there's a question here. It says, if 11% of all sales are online,
yes,
and am I in good shape?
Yes.
Can you see this? Am I in good shape with 11% of my overall sales being online, with the balance in store?
Yeah, look, Peter, I think well done. 11% is it's a good starting point. And what you will probably find, if you look after those 11% of those people really well, they will become a much bigger part, and they will be able to come back to you because you'll have all the details of what they like to buy. So 11% can come 20% pretty quickly. So you want to nurture that group probably more than any others, because you can't control who walks through your door, but you can control the people who you connect with online, because you know exactly who they are because they're at the end of an email. So grow that bit from 11%, but that's a fantastic start. So well done.
Yeah, well done. Okay, question here. It says, how to drive down the cost of social media maintenance, time spent in creating content. We've got lots of good sessions on this, don't we, Francis? This is, this is in our wheelhouse right here.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of ways. And I think the time spent, one of the things is, if you keep your phone near you all the time, take photographs of things that you think are really interesting. And people love seeing back of house stuff that you're doing. You know, how do you package things? Where's the storeroom? And, if you've got those special touches that some people have where they write a personal note, take photographs of the fact that someone's writing a personal note before they pop it into the box to be sent out. Take those and put them on social media. Simple photographs with a caption can do a really powerful in saying, this is what we do. It's not just about what you see in the sort of the website view of what you can buy, which often is disconnected from who you are. If you show those images of just things in the background, maybe you've got a couple of young staff members who are, trigger happy on their cell phones. Get them to take lots of photographs and upload them. So if you don't have that, maybe, borrow some friends. So
yeah, take advantage of these young people. Look, they love doing that work. It's second nature to them. It's not work at all. Do you know what I mean? They constantly are taking photos and on their phone. It literally is muscle memory.
Yeah, and I think the same thing goes with influencers. Like, you've got people who, if you're selling again to an audience and someone who's really charismatic, who can talk about your product, and you're not so good at the idea of standing in front of a camera doing it, just see if you can ask them to do it for you. If there's someone you're connected to, the chances are they'll be able to kind of articulate it in a way that you can't. And actually, I'm not the one that's comfortable in front of cameras, but I would certainly get other people to do that if I was selling my products online. So just find the person who feels that they can convey what you're about in a really authentic, engaging way.
Okay, I'm a virtual assistant with office assistance and bookkeeping service. How do I utilize Digital Boost platform to expand my business?
Great question. A virtual assistant, there's two types, virtual meaning an AI assistant or virtual meaning not inside the business. Not sure which one it is, but which is probably in itself some confusion because there are two totally different descriptions around a virtual assistant. But actually what I would say is in Digital Boost, learn how to make sure your website packs a punch. It actually gives all the things that people need to know. They can see a demonstration of what your work that you do, and they understand the benefits, which are obviously around time and productivity. And so people can see value, but they need to know what the benefits are, not what you do, but how it's going to benefit them. So make sure the copywriting on your website is super clear about what you're going to save that business in terms of time and energy. And then offer perhaps trials, maybe find out ways of promoting it through social media. If you go on Digital Boost, find those videos that sort of pique your interest, then jump in and start to learn about some of those areas where, what's your brand? How do people identify you and know what you're all about? And then also think about those things about the copywriting, for example, about telling your story. People love stories. They want to know who you are, why you do it, what makes you different than someone else. And again, what are the benefits? All about benefits.
And I will say that we did a session with Quick Brown Fox. It's a Q&A. So Quick Brown Fox. And Amanda Livingston, I always remember her name because it's like Livingston, I presume. She is an amazing copywriter, and she laid it out on how to do copywriting and the fact that it's only about 25% writing and 75% strategy. So if you want to get some tips and tricks from her on copywriting, because maybe that's an area that you could use a little bit of assistance with, I'd highly recommend jumping on the site, go to the search engine in the top right corner and just type in Quick Brown Fox. It should pull up the copywriting sessions that we've done with her, the Q&As. They were absolutely fabulous. You will get a lot of value out of them. And she does it step by step. And I believe there's even a learning summary attached underneath, which will help you to outline those stages.
Excellent. The other good advice around a website and copy is remember anyone can land on your website on any page. So that it's not linear. It's not like a book where you start the front page and you work your way through. So every page needs to be really clear about who you are and what you do. So just make sure that if someone has a link from a Facebook and they land on your shopping page and you've got a whole lot of products, you still have enough of on that page that says who you are and a really clear brand about what you stand for.
Oh, so true. Now, my business offers a service, not mine, Jennifer's, offers a service for over 20 years. Satisfied clients have referred me on. That stopped in 2021. How should I market a service online? It's a big question.
So first of all, go back to the people who have already been big supporters in the past. I think one of the things that we need to be much better at as business owners is reaching out and saying to people, hey, look, right now, things are tough, as you know. I'd really value you actually providing me a small testimonial that I can put on my website. So if you're a service business, people love to see testimonials. They love to see what others think about your business. And it's even more important if it's going to be a one-on-one consultation or you're going to be an individual providing service, that people want to see that others have benefited. So I would go back first up to those great people who have always referred on businesses and say, need a little bit of help, do that. And then on the website, have a dedicated area or designed into the website really clearly those testimonials from those people and actually enable people to see how beneficial your service has been. So, go out, get going, but you don't need a lot of things on the website, but they do need to see that people have found value in that experience with you. And it sounds like that'll be an easy one for you.
Yeah. And there's some questions here again about the presentation. You will get access to this. If you are on the Zoom call, we will make sure it goes out in a link and so that you can have access to this. If you are streaming with us on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and you're not registered,
you need to register.
Get registered because you're missing out on so many things like the provider offers, one, all the other content that happens, two, and just like a plethora of information that we have on the site, including those learning summaries. And that's the only place you can get them. So it's a quick little couple questions and you're totally registered for the site and you'll get all the good all the goods, right, Francis?
And look, I should say, if you think that Anna Maori and I are passionate about small business, we are. Actually, there's a huge team. There's another 20 of us just like us who are out there who are just there to help you, to help with your business. So, we want this to be something that by the time Christmas rolls around, that you're like, okay, 2022 is the year we digitize. We're going to stop working these crazy hours and weekends. We're going to enable autoresponders and a whole lot of automated processes to do so much of this heavy lifting. And most importantly, we're going to open channels to new customers who can buy our products and services without us having to actually look after every single one of them. That actually it becomes a sort of very streamlined and integrated experience. And so it's not as hard as it sounds. I know the terminology sounds super scary. A lot of the digital terms are really foreign and really weird, but we're here to help you navigate that space.
And so it goes into this whole question that the next question is just like, I have a website. I don't have a website yet, but I wanted to try to start selling my photography works through Instagram page or Facebook page. Can I find some advice through Digital Boost on how to set it up? Now, we had a little sub question that we were going to kind of address, that we kind of outlined a little bit, Francis, which was just the difference between Facebook website and, a Facebook website and a real website, or, that kind of thing, Facebook pages and a website. Maybe it'd be a good time to address that. Just really
let me do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So look, it's fantastic to get Instagram and to be selling products through Instagram and through Facebook, because they have a huge reach. And so they have the algorithms and people can find your product if you describe it really well. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you don't get the data. So you don't know who those customers are. It's kind of a transactional process. So it's much harder to go back and resell to those same customers. When you build your own website and you integrate it with Facebook and Instagram, what it means is people can come back to your website. They can sign up perhaps for a newsletter or updates on your website. And then you actually basically 2 bites of the same cherry. You're getting the database of customers. You're using the platform like Instagram, which is beautiful and visual, and it's got a large following of potentially your customers. So put them together. Don't put either or. It's an and website and the other channels to market. So, but it sounds like a really good idea. I know we're running out of time. I see there, Jenny, you've got a question about whether you should digitize yourself or get people paid to do it.
Yeah,
There's
that
really
question.
good.
Do you want to address that? And then there's one more by Sue that's at the top there that I think probably a good one as well.
Okay, let's do those two. So Jenny, I think it's really important you do what you can do yourself. And the reason I say that is actually once you do some of these things yourself, or perhaps with a friend or someone you can trust to help you out, you'll build your confidence. And the whole thing about learning is you learn and apply it, you'll be so much better at it. The more you rely on a third party, the more you're going to have to keep going back. And of course, you don't know nearly as much about that business as you would if you did it yourself. However, some parts of digitization may be just like you're not interested, in which case I would strongly suggest then find yourself a really reputable developer or designer or whoever it is you need and work with them, but put very clear parameters about what you want and try to work alongside them so you're getting the learning benefit. Don't just outsource, walk away and then plug and play and go, it now works, it's okay. We talk to so many businesses who don't know who designed their website. The business has gone out or disappeared, or the person has disappeared. They've got no access to their code. They can't put it up, they can't take it down, and they have to create an entirely new website with a different URL or different web address because they've got no longer have control of their initial one. So please don't get in that situation where you lose control of your own site. And then one more question before we have to.
You lose your Google gains.
You do lose.
You don't know what gains are. They talk about gains as muscles a lot of times. It's Google juice, So we don't want to lose any of that Google juice. The last question. I'm wondering, there was one, there's so many good questions here. And I just want to reiterate that if we didn't get to your question today, I'm going to be, we lost the power. I am going to be taking all of these questions and putting them into a spreadsheet, and we will get to all of these questions. So I don't want to feel like we've ignored anybody here. I don't know if you want to pick another one. I'm going to jump up and down. And
there was one you said at the beginning. I missed it. I'm not sure which one it was now, but look, I think right now we have got so many great questions here. What we will do is we will put them in, like I say, Anna Maori will put them into a spreadsheet. For those of you who get our weekly emails, we'll put a link to that in the newsletter so that you can go and read to your heart's content all these questions and all the answers. We'll provide that. We'll try for Thursday. It goes out Thursday. It may not be this Thursday. If it's not, that we the following Thursday, but we'll get these answers out to you. It's super important. We really appreciate you doing coming along today, taking an hour out of your day to listen to some of the things that are happening in this space. What I want to say is we truly believe that New Zealand can be one of the most digitally advanced small and medium business economies in the world. What we need to do is tell our great stories, and we need to make sure we're reaching all those fabulous people out there who don't know about you. So let's make sure they do know what you do, where you are, and how they can transact and do business with you. And let's grow your business and actually make 2022 an astounding year. Let's make it, the beginning of the future, which is going to be absolutely amazing. So hope to see you again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much, Frances. You always share such great wisdom on these sessions. Every time you come on, I feel like so supported and inspired. And I know that everybody's popping that into the chat here right now. I just want to remind everyone, if you got questions that didn't get answered, you could also join the coffee and question session on Thursday. Another place to do it. So let us know if you need help getting access to those sessions, getting the Zoom link. We will get it for you. You can always contact support.
Support at the Digital Boost. So support at.
Let me drop it in the chat.
digitalboost.co.nz. I'm hoping that's right.
Correct. That's
correct. Right. Support at digitalboost.co.nz. Drop us a line, and it will be fantastic to be able to answer those questions there too.
Okay, I'm dropping it in the chat for everyone. So you've got it there. I know you probably have to run. I'm going to stay here on the line and pull all of the chat out of the session before I log off. So I'll be here for a few more minutes, and everyone else have a wonderful day. Ka kite. I'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Join us. Shopify is going to be on tomorrow. And then is that Wednesday or that's Wednesday? Yeah. So we've got the session at 10 tomorrow. So join me if you'd like to hear about Shopify.
Wonderful to see you all. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful Christmas. I don't see you online before then. Ka kite.